we start this chat today with Julie showing us her new hair growth. And folks, I would call it very textbook new hair growth, which is 6 months post chemotherapy. So really interesting for you to have a look at that. But more than that, Julie shares with us the roller coaster journey she went through, from cutting her long curtain-like hair, as she'd describe it, often donating it to charity, to making a very clear decision not to wear a wig, to talking to her teenagers about hair loss, right through to new hair growth. She also had an intensive care experience, which was quite a journey. Hey, listen, folks, this is a great one. Make yourself a cup of tea and just listen to this really authentic chat. Hi, Julie.
Hello there.
How are you this morning?
Oh, I'm fine. Thanks very much.
Oh, good. Oh, thanks so much for doing this chat. As I've said to you earlier, this chat, the idea is we just have a conversation about your hair loss and cancer treatment journey, so that we can just explore how it was for you, really. So at the moment, tell us a bit about you, kind of, obviously you don't have to give your street address, but where in the country are you and where now are you in your hair loss and new growth journey?
Well, I live in Wales. I've been in education all of my life, and I've always had long hair down to the middle of my back, and a kind of curtains, I suppose. But that's the way I've always been. So, and as far as the cancer journey goes, well, I had a mastectomy and lymph nodes removed. So I've got a nice big smiley scar just here, which my daughter wants to turn into an emoji.
Smiley scar, I've never heard that before. That's a lovely term.
And I've had chemotherapy, 2 rounds of chemotherapy. I was awfully ill both times. The second time I was in intensive care for a week. So they decided not to do any more of that. And I've had radiotherapy and hormone treatment. So I'm on these tablets, which will last for 10 years. And I'm on Phesgo, which is a targeted therapy, every 3 weeks. So that's basically, oh yes, that's more or less it, I think.
Wow, that's a lot of treatment, isn't it? It's a lot of endurance to go through. And I heard you say, you'd been a long haired girl all your life. Never had short style.
Well, I did have short when I was a student. I decided to go mad and shave my head. Rather stupidly, I did it in November, and boy, was it cold cycling to uni. But no, it's basically most of my sensible adult life. I've had long hair. Yeah.
Wow. So you had actually gone through once in your life, as you've just described. Did you clipper it yourself? Was it one of those student type of, where were you? Were you in student digs? Were you at home? How did it come about?
Yeah, I think when I moved to uni, I just felt, as you do, you're very insecure in your own person. And I felt like nobody really liked me. And so I suppose as a way of getting round, I don't know, it was a bit weird, really. I just decided I'd shave it off and then people definitely wouldn't like me. So it was a bit of strange reverse thinking, but actually it worked quite well, and I felt quite hip and cool for a while. I don't feel quite as hip and cool now, I have to say. Although cool, definitely cold around the ears.
As in cold.
As in cold, yeah.
So right now we're seeing you with I'm just trying to see how much hair you've got there. So it looks like in some places you're coming up to half an inch, would you say? Nearly an inch in some places?
Yeah, put my fingers and it sticks out the top. But it's growing really wild. It's like having a party up there. It's it's growing in all different directions, and I don't really know what to do with it. I'm very undecided as to whether I cut it again or whether I let it grow. And my children are so relieved that I've actually got hair that they don't really care anymore. They just hated me with no hair. They struggled. they struggled more, I think, because they didn't want their friends to see. And that was very understandable for them. And obviously, as a mum, you're very brave and comply, because it obviously meant a lot to them, and I didn't want them to be bullied because of it. But
what ages are your children?
Well, they're just in secondary school. So
Teenagers.
Yeah, so I was very aware of how they were feeling. But internally for me, that was really hurtful not to, I mean, I couldn't drive anyway because I've been very ill, but not to even go with them on the school run and not to bump into other mums. And, you know, it was quite isolating, but I understood why. And I didn't want to make things worse for them, or, you know, start any horrible bullying at school, you know, because mum was bald. So I just kept myself to myself pretty much, in the hope that when it grew back, we could make a phased return to normality, if you like.
Yeah, and it sounds like, you know, you did that beautiful shift of being a parent where you realize, you know what, I get this, they're teenagers. It's not that they don't have empathy or compassion, but actually the teenage brain is black and white. It's right or it's not. And even if your mum has a fringe cut, you know, and you don't want them to walk you to school, you know, it's so challenging, isn't it? And I speak to a lot of parents, and you know, I think it's really comforting for other people listening if they've got teenagers or children with any age, that you just know, oh gosh, this isn't going to work for my kids. And you do that, you know, caring thing as a parent and go, okay, I get it. But obviously, like you said, it does still sit with you, missing things like the first day at school, dropping them off, or those interactions. It's hard, isn't it? That's hard.
It is. And I felt really that I had made that choice not to have a wig, because I just felt that it really wasn't me. You know, I've never been a girly girl. I've never done makeup. I've never paid that much attention to my hair. It's just been something that's just hung there and been there, you know. I've never really gone down that road that a lot of women do. So I just felt that a wig wouldn't sit happily with the way I felt about myself. So I didn't go for that.
Did you try one on at all, or did you just decide that isn't going to be for me?
No, I didn't try one on. I did, however, meet somebody in the cancer ward who I vaguely knew, friend of a friend of a friend type of thing. And I said, wow, how have you managed to keep your hair? And she said, it's a wig. And I was like, wow, gosh, they're really good, you know. And I did wonder at that point, oh, maybe I should have done, maybe I should have gone down that road. But to be honest, you know, they cost quite a lot of money, and I could see that it would be a short-term fix for a slight mental, psychological discomfort. And I couldn't justify it. So I thought, no, I'll just brave it out and it'll be fine.
Were you offered a referral by your NHS hospital?
In the vaguest terms, yes, but I think I was so disinterested that I didn't it didn't really register with me. I just thought, no, it's really not for me.
Yeah, it wasn't for you. And if anyone's listening into this or watching, it's I think it's really interesting as you tell your journey, because what I would always say to people is go along for a fitting, because you don't have to spend a penny to go for a fitting, just to reconfirm your position, you know, and that can be useful. And depending on different hospitals, you pay around £70 towards the wig, unless your hospital provides the prescription charge for free. And some NHS hospitals do cover the full cost, so it's always worth kind of thinking. But you made that decision, it wasn't for you. And also you had hair loss during the hot summer, didn't you? We've just come out of the hottest summer on record. I don't know when people will be listening to this or watching this, but that has been really complicated for thousands of people who wanted to wear a wig, got a wig they liked, and it's just been unbearably hot, hasn't it?
Well, the other complicating factor was that I'm on letrozole, which is a kind of hormone tablet, which the effect of which is the old menopausal symptoms of the hot, cold, hot
Flushes,
flushes.
and yeah.
And so I did find that anything I put on my head, I know I put a scarf on and I'd, stand in front of the mirror and I'd make it ever so nice. And I thought, oh, done a good job there. And about 3 minutes later, I think, oh gosh, I'm hot, I have to take it off. So anything I put on my head lasted for a very short time, and it'd be on, off, on, off, on, off. And I don't think that, I watched quite a few videos of people doing these scarves, and I thought, oh, that's so beautiful, but it'd last 3-5 minutes, and then I'd get hot and have to, it's been take off, take off, take on, take off for me.
Because that combination, as you've described, of the hot weather and the flushes, the fluctuation, and then the cold sweats is difficult anyway. But when you couple that with temperatures, which for us in England, people listening from other countries will think it's nothing, won't they? But for us Brits and in Wales, I mean, gosh, if it goes above, kind of 22 degrees, we consider it really hot, don't we? So it's been exceptionally hot. So just thinking about your journey, so you had your operations, you had all your surgery before chemotherapy, or you had chemo, then surgery, then chemo again? How did you have it?
No, I had my surgery
first.
all in one go, in and out in a day. It's quite spectacular, really.
Wow.
Yeah, so went in the morning and I was home in the evening with a drain.
Gosh, wow.
Yeah, and then after I'd recovered enough from that, the chemotherapy started. But I hadn't realised, and I don't know if anybody else has a similar experience, I found the actual hair loss very painful. So I found, actually, again, that was another reason my decision not to have a wig was confirmed, because I found any touch on my head to be very painful. And sometimes, and if I'm sitting on the sofa, my cat will come on the back of the sofa and she'll swish her tail. And usually it's quite nice, but just the swish of a cat tail on my head, so painful. Going into the fridge for anything, any cold air on my head, I couldn't cope. But I have to say also that before, I suppose I should have mentioned it earlier, really, that before the chemotherapy started, I made a decision to cut my hair.
Yeah.
So and
it was, how long was it?
Down to the middle of my back.
Yeah, that's long.
I made a decision to cut it. And I'd been partly inspired by a 9-year-old at the local primary school who'd had her hair cut and given it to the Little Princess Trust. And I thought, well, I've got long hair. It's not all grey. There was some quite nice brown bits. It was only a bit grey around here. So I went to the hairdressers and I phoned them and I said, this is what I want done. I want ponytails made. And there's a video on the Little Princess Trust website how to go about it. And I went there and I sat there. It was in lockdown, so I had a mask on. And I just remember looking in the mirror, seeing myself in a mask and these 4 sort of very taut ponytails and having it cut. And then I sent it off in the envelope with the form, and I got a little certificate back to thank me for my hair. So I felt that I had actually done something positive with the hair. So that helped, I think. It wasn't like something was being taken from me completely. It was like something that I had gifted to somebody. And I've got girls, so I thought, what if they went through something horrible and they were too frightened to go to school because they hadn't got any hair? What if they were my children? And I think that's what, sorry, getting checked up here. That's what persuaded me to do that, really. And I suddenly said to my husband, I'm going to have it all cut before the chemo starts. And he was like, really? But I'd been mulling it over for quite a while. And so that's what I did.
Oh, Julie, and that's such a wholehearted thing to do. And if anyone's listening, we'll put the link to the Little Princesses Trust in under the video. We also have it on our website as a link. And just so that you know, I work in a lot of teenage and children's units, and we put those wigs onto people, and they do make a difference. So, you know, it's an excellent charity, and it's a very wholehearted thing to do with your hair. So then did the hairdresser then cut it into a short haircut? Did you have it clippered down? How did you have it taken down to very short?
Just a very short haircut. I just said, you know, it was virtually, well, it wasn't shaved. No, it was.
Was it like a crop?
Yeah, I mean, it was very short. Maybe I do my husband's hair with clippers. It was about a number 12, you know.
Okay. Oh, okay. So it had a bit of length on it, but it was just, yeah, a very short kind of hairstyle. Did it take you back to your student days?
It did. And I remembered how cold it was. And it is very cold having these exposed ears, particularly at night. I have like one of these sort of things, you know, let your hands through.
Yeah.
And I sometimes put that over the top of my head, but at night I might just like lay it on top of my ear, because it does get chilly.
Yeah, and you feel it from the head. It's one of those things, isn't it? You feel like you're told it when you're children, you know, you'll get in your head, you'll get a cold, you'll feel cold, and you think, But actually, a lot of people, when they become hair free, it's one of the things they say, God, I just didn't expect to be so cold and tops of my ears. And like you said, you would have had your curtains hanging over that.
That's right, and tuck it over my ears.
Yeah.
And it's quite weird because sometimes I still find my old muscle memory and going to tuck my hair over my ears, and it's not there anymore. It's it's a very strange thing. I can't get used to it. I mean, I look in the mirror and I think, who's that? I find, you know, one becomes not mutilated as such, but the surgery changes the way you look, and then you have chemotherapy, and it just feels like the final slap in the face to lose your hair and find bits in your tea and on the pillow, and you can do that and it comes out, and it's quite it affects the way you view yourself when you're very down. I think, you know, it's hard to stay very cheerful through chemotherapy, because certainly I did find that. I found staying cheerful quite a challenge.
It's so many changes all at once, isn't it? And like you said, and it's changes where as well, because of the medication and the body recovery and the fear that's going on, everything, it's hard to lift yourself up and over because you don't have the bodily support when you're, you know, the body is weaker anyway. And then as you've described, you know, going through so many changes very, very quickly. It sounds like, you know, you made some really strong decisions. You decided, I don't feel a wig's for me. You decided, I'm going to donate my hair. I'm going to cut my hair short. And you talked about that sensitivity and that pain, because we met on a workshop together. And that's why those workshops are so important, because, you know, people, especially women, I think, you described yourself as not particularly someone that will do kind of hair and makeup, but actually and that can almost be harder, because for women always feel like they should know, you know, I should know how to manage this, I should know how to put a wig on, I should know how to tie a scarf, I should know what this pain is. And actually any type of pain during cancer treatment is frightening, isn't it?
Well, I think, yes, I mean, but the thing is, it's not there in isolation, is it? Because I was suffering, you know, from sickness and diarrhea virtually non-stop through that period, and that really does not make you feel very nice.
And the whole body feels so sensitive when you're being sick and so on. And then, like you said, that sensitivity, which normally for a lot of people about 4 to 5 days before the hair starts to shift majorly, and then as it's shifting it can be incredibly painful. And we say to people, as a non-medical professional, we would normally say, you know, talk to your medical professionals, and they'd normally recommend to take a painkiller during that time because it can be that sensitive.
Yes,
I'm
yes.
just curious, did you were you offered scalp cooling to wear a cold cap? Did you think about that?
Yes, I did think about it. I did have the literature given to me, and I did read all about it, and I did discuss it with the nurses, and I thought, you know, I kind of got the impression that it probably would work, but in a patchy sort of way. And it's strange, really. I almost felt that I wanted to go through losing the hair. It's very mixed up, that you kind of want to do it because you're having this treatment and it's like your life's been turned upside down. And I didn't want to have patchiness. I didn't want it a bit of thin hair here and a bit of long hair there. I sort of wanted it over with.
Yeah.
I don't know if that makes sense.
That makes perfect sense. And a lot of people, it's very interesting actually. Occasionally I've worked with people that have had scalp cooling, and it's been, I mean, we get success is a very individual thing with scalp cooling, because you're right, the majority of people are going to lose some of their hair, more hair than normal. However, I've worked with a number of people that actually have kept so much hair that they've said they feel like no one can link in with what they're going through. And everybody expects them at work, at home, to carry on with their life because they're looking quite well. They might have had a mastectomy, but everything's covered up. No one can see. And they've got this hair, and they've said, I'm thinking of shaving it off because I can't seem to get through to people. Yeah, really interesting, though, because you've mentioned, you know, kind of thinking to yourself, do you know what? If this is going to happen, I want it to happen. And
Yes.
I heard you talk about, you know, cutting it off, donating it and cutting it short. There's an element, at least, of control in that, at a
Yes.
time and place where you decide. And actually the number one comment that when I ask particularly women afterwards, what's the number one choice that you made that you say, yes, I would stick with that again? And it's normally, if they haven't cut the hair off before it falls, people would say I would have cut it when it was in my control. What do you agree? Do you feel like, although it was difficult, it was something you could do, and it was done when it was cut, it was done?
Yes, I didn't want the unpredictability of finding long hair in the shower.
Yeah.
I just couldn't face it. I thought that would just be so terrible and such a waste, really, you know, when it could have been put to some positive use. But I think just finding it, just looking down, I could almost imagine what it would be like, although I might well have been wrong. But I imagine that I could look down and see it all floating away. And that would be quite destructive to my sense of self.
Yeah.
I wanted to show my children that I was strong as well.
Yeah.
So I think I wanted to show them that, yes, I can do this. I can be like this little girl that they knew in primary school who gave her hair away. I can do that, and I can have my hair cut, and this is what it will look like when it grows back. So I think there was a slight element of that, about preempting post-treatment.
Which is where you are now, isn't it? You've now got this shorter style, and you have, I'm just looking, could you come forward a little bit? I just want to see to the camera. Yeah, great. Oh gosh, you've got quite a lot. And to the sides, can we have a little peek? Yes, great. Have you had a little cut yet?
No.
No. Because I can see that often people sort of say, yeah, here, but it's good growth. I can see all your hairlines in place. I can see that it looks like possibly this might be the slowest growing area.
That's right. I had quite a patch there, but it is filling in now.
It's filling in now, and the colour's different. So that colour variant is making it more see-through with your with a paler scalp. The colour comes into play a lot with short hair. When did you finish your last chemo?
March.
So we're now, so was it middle March, end March? When do you think?
I think it was the end of March, and I was in, as I say, I was in ITU for a week.
Gosh. Really
quite poorly. And at that point, your hair, I felt that my hair was completely irrelevant. you know, because you're in there. The nurses have said, I think you should phone your children. You are in a very precarious situation. Just that the chemotherapy didn't agree with my body. It's not like that for everybody. Some people sail through it, but in my particular case, I didn't. So my hair was the least of my worries.
That must have been very scary, being in intensive care for a week, did you say?
Yes, it was very, very frightening. And you know, you look over the abyss, really. It's not like being on a normal hospital ward. It is very intensive, and you are, you know, you wonder if you might die, and that is a very scary place to be, particularly when you have children.
Being asked to call your children. Did you do that? What did you do?
I did, yeah. I WhatsApped them, and I had a central line in my neck, and I was all plumbed in, and the nurses were there, and when I came off the call, I just burst into tears, and so did they, and they said I did really well to you know, to say, yep, well, I'll call you tomorrow, but it was very hard. And
oh, Julie, thank you for sharing that with us. And please don't apologize. And here you are with us now, able to share that, because there will be many other people watching this who have either had that experience or sadly are going to have an emergency life experience, because this is what can happen, as we said, not to everybody, but to some. And when it's you, it's a big experience. And God, I think nobody can imagine making that call, and wow, you did it.
It was tricky, but it was quite funny when I got home from there and I walked in the house. The one thing that struck me more than anything was all the colours in the house, because it's a very sensorily deprived place, is intensive care. And you know, there's beeping all the time, so it was lovely to hear silence and lovely to hear noise from the girls arguing. I just love that. Thought, just keep that up, that's fine. But to see coloured curtains and rugs, and you know, just all the colours in the house,
and to see home,
it was sort of quite overpowering. And I just walked in and I just said, wow, it's so colourful. It was, and you realise that you have been sensorily deprived, and you've been in quite a dark place in your mind.
That intensive, as you said, heightened place that you were in there, emotionally, physically, and to come back into your home and to kind of bear witness to those colours which were always there.
That's right. Well, I didn't notice before, and in that way it's been quite a positive experience, because you certainly become much more aware of what's important in life, and that life itself is so fleeting, and that we really do need to make the most of it. And every time I hug my children, or every interaction, really, you know, you just think, gosh, I'm lucky to do that. Even when I'm being, you know, teenage and all this, you just think, well, I'm glad I'm here to see that. So I think it does have the effect of waking you up, and just giving you a bit of a kick up the backside, and thinking, actually, you know, you make the most of it while you're around, because you don't know how long you're going to be here for.
It's an opportunity, isn't it, to see things in a different way. The opportunity of those life-changing moments is, as you said, actually to walk into your home, to see it differently, to have that experience with your children, and to think, yeah, go on, have that argument. You're teenagers and I'm here, I'm going to help you sort it out.
That's right.
It's quite a beautiful thing to have, having been through such a challenging experience. And I was thinking, now you're 6 months post your last chemo. So anybody watching, you've got what I would call very textbook new hair growth.
Oh, have I?
Yes, you have. Are you a teacher, Julie? You said you've been in education all your life.
Yeah, Yeah.
So you're a teacher with textbook new hair growth, because what we tend to say to people, the first 3 months, 0 to 3 months, it can be quite slow, some areas more than others, and by around 3 months everybody should have about a centimetre, and then it from 3 to 6 months, which is where you've just gone through, it tends to speed up and level up a bit, and the patches get a bit less patchy, and you tend to head towards at least an inch, which is what I see you have. Everything seems in place. So how does it feel now? Do you think you might have a little snip here and there? Have you got a plan for your new hair growth? Any
No,
ideas?
I don't know what to do. The girls think that it looks nicer this way than it did when it was long.
Wow.
Um, I don't know. I don't really know what I feel about it. I'm grateful that it's there, because I think there was a time, I think, when I didn't quite in my heart believe that it would grow back. You know, it's that something so catastrophic can happen to your outward appearance and all the other internal things that are going on. You know, this sort of catastrophic thing that happens and your hair falling out. I mean, what a peculiar thing. And then to believe that it actually would come back. And of course, it doesn't just affect the hair on your head. I mean, all the hair from everywhere else, you know, up your nose, your eyelashes, your eyebrows, and your pubic hair as well, and your body hair. You know, it is bizarre to suddenly feel very, very smooth in every little nook and cranny, shall we say.
Absolutely, every little nook and cranny is quite
Yes.
true. And we were talking, weren't we, before about, you know, nose hairs. I think you'd mentioned when you came on the workshop, other people were saying, oh yeah, I've got a runny nose.
Yeah, I mean, I love you don't know what good these little hairs do until you haven't got them anymore. And I love my nose hairs, you know. I mean, I'd give them a present if I could, you know,
That's
you know,
lovely.
because they kind of, you know, they stop as in your nose running.
Yeah, they do, don't they? They've got a job to do. And when
Yeah,
you're hair free, I mean, people are often shocked. And whenever I meet with nurses, I say, do say to people, you're going to lose your nose hair and your nose is likely to be running constantly, because people are
yeah.
terrified of getting a cold during
Mm.
chemo. But actually, to hear others say, yeah, me too, is, well, how did it feel for you hearing that when other people were
Well,
sharing those comments?
I didn't kind of I didn't give my little nose hairs any importance. I've never loved them and cherished them as I should. And so, you know, having been to a workshop and seen all the other women go like that, I
All the
thought,
time.
yeah, and I thought, yeah, that's me. And I put a little question in the chat of the workshop. You know, has anyone else got a runny nose? And people came up, yeah, with little emojis of taps dripping, and yeah. So it's nice that you know you're not the only one.
Yeah.
And you know, it should be reassuring that they do grow back. And I still do have a fairly runny nose, but nowhere near what it was, you know, and I don't have to be putting Savlon around my nose because it's so sore and red. And
Yeah, they're
the
starting
other,
to refunction again in the nose. It's strange. Body hair can take a while to get back into a cycle of being back to what it was previously. And it can take, so this can sound really strange, but for body hair, brows, lashes, it can take between 9 to 18 months to get back to how it was.
right, yeah,
Which is
well, I
quite
can't
a long
well
time,
believe,
isn't it?
yeah, I mean, it's the little hairs in other places, like, I don't know, maybe I shouldn't say, but when you sit down, you know, on your little buttocks there are little hairs that I've never loved, I've never cherished or paid any attention to. But my goodness, when they're not there, sitting down is terribly sore.
Yeah.
And you think, oh, you know, because they must act as a little cushion between
Yeah.
your skin.
And warmth, like you said, we have hair primarily for warmth, which we underestimate, especially as females, because males often the body hair can be very prominent, and for females it's always there. I mean, everywhere in our body is covered in hair except for the palms of our hands, soles of our feet, and our tongue. And
Mm.
everywhere else, we might not be able to see it, has some type of fine hair often. But you're right, they have a function.
They do, and you appreciate them when they start to grow back, because it is very uncomfortable sitting down. You know, it makes you think, well, I can't wear that because that will rub. I mean, I didn't wear trousers for quite a while because it was so uncomfortable. There was just no cushioning there.
And it sounds like you were having a lot of heightened body sensitivity. It sounds to me like everywhere felt, you know, the nose, the head was cold. And it sounds to me like, you know, I mean, you had that intensive care experience. You've had surgery, you've had chemotherapy, you've had radiotherapy, you're having,
Yeah.
Your body has been through a lot, hasn't it? It's been through a lot, and now it's, you know, coming into recovery time. And during that time, what was your go-to items? You know, you said earlier that you had a buff at night time, even for the coldness of your ears. Did you have anything else, a favorite hat, or were you just hair free? What was your thing?
Well, I tried a few things. Oh, it's the cat. Sorry.
So, it's come to give you a head massage with that tail.
It's just scratching at my feet.
Oh. Did you, when you were in your house for your girls, did you feel like you needed to cover up, or were they okay with you being hair free in the house?
No, they were fine in the house.
In the house. So is that as soon as you go out of the house, they needed you to cover up?
And in fact, we had the offer from an organisation called the Osborne Trust, and they sent to us very kindly some books and some journals for the girls to fill in about how they were feeling about it. But there was a couple of books. They were way too young for the girls, but actually, although they were too young, the ideas were still there, and we still read them together. Mummy Goes to Hospital, I think one was called, and it was about women, you know, a mum that loses her hair, and about the process of that. So I think it's very important, you know, the children do seem to, you know, it's good that there is support out there for children with mums that are going through it, because it is very disturbing.
Yeah.
You know, they look at you as their mum, and they have a picture of what mum's like, and occasionally mum wears things they don't like, and mum goes out in that, you know, and you know, but when mum changes in a quite an obvious to the world way, you know, it is disturbing for them.
Yeah, they don't know how to take that, do they? Because like we were talking, that kind of teenage years, I mean, gosh, you know, even the most attached, healthy teenagers are going to go through these hormonally driven changes, and you know, they don't want to stand out in any other way other than their way.
No.
So did you find around the house, you said you were okay to be hair free, and then did you, when you went out and about to do shopping or to go to the hospital, did you wear a cap or a hat? What did you wear?
Well, it was basically these buff things, because they're very quick to put on, and you don't need a mirror.
And it was hot, like we said, didn't we? You know, it was hot. Did you find that, I mean, I'm assuming something that I shouldn't, but you know, especially during the hot weather, I was warning people that even if they're wearing buffs, if they were outside for a period of longer than 10 minutes, they might need to have a sun protection spray under to protect their head. Did you find that you spent much time outside, or you were inside mainly? How did you manage that heat and the sun?
No, I wore a buff, and I put sunblock
underneath
on my head, and I also put I got some oily stuff and some citronella, and rubbed that through as well to stop being bitten. We went down to the woods, or you know, there's a river near us that you know, people can swim in, and you know, if you're near little bitey things, because I did not want to get my head bitten either. You know, it's just an added thing. So yeah.
So you were just diluting, were you, a little bit into a coconut oil or another base carrier oil that you had? What were you doing?
It was just it might have been almond oil.
Just for anyone listening in,
just not very strong, just a couple of drops. I think it's, a couple of drops to 5 ml or something, 10
Yeah.
ml. Remember
Yes,
tells
mixing
you
it together, isn't it?
That's right, giving it a mix, and then just kind of rubbing it through. And I've rubbed that through my hair and then on my arms, because I didn't want to get bitten on my surgery side either. Worried about possible, lymphedema, and thinking I can do without anything extra. So yeah, I didn't want to. We have horse flies and things near us. We're quite rural. So, and I do react strongly to horse flies. I've been bitten before, so I didn't. Yeah, just trying to keep the bugs at bay.
Yeah. So you were mainly kind of, apart from your buffs, you were mainly kind of hair free. And now do you feel like you've got, because it looks to me like you've got a short style. Does it feel like that to you now? Do you feel like you've moved past kind of cancer treatment hair and hair loss? Do you feel like if you went out and about to do shopping, nobody would look and think, oh, you wouldn't get that? I don't know if you've got any look twice looks.
Oh, I did, yes. I got quite a lot of that. People looking, and those kind of pitying looks, oh dear, poor thing, and you hope that you don't behave like that yourself, because that's but I'm sure I have done, because I don't know, I didn't like being pitied. I didn't. And I'm also aware that my cancer is a better prognosis than some other cancers. And so I didn't feel that I deserved that sympathy, because, there are worse things and worse, my type of cancer isn't the worst that you can get.
It's
so
really
in a
difficult,
way,
isn't it, with those reactions? Sorry,
yeah.
I interrupted you, but it's really, I was just thinking about what you said about, I have this conversation a lot with people, and hair loss, particularly in females, because 50% of the male population, if they're over 50, will have hair pattern, male pattern baldness. So it isn't so rare to see a male with very short hair or hair free, but it is still rare to see a female completely hair free. But when the brows are gone and the lashes, like you said, that's the giveaway as well, isn't it? That's where, and the way that we register each other naturally, we're always looking, and we will, in milliseconds, our brains will get there before we do. We've picked up, and it's that quick second, like you said, and then somebody either goes into, like you said, sympathy, or they look away, and it's, what would you say would be, it's a very interesting thing, because I heard you say, I hope I don't react like that. It's very difficult, isn't it, to be aware of our reactions and do something that we think is kind to another, isn't it?
That's right. I mean, I did find myself not being defensive as such, but coming straight out with it. So at the till, for example, if somebody kind of looked at me and looked again, and I'd say, gosh, it's so cold, isn't it? Of course, when you lose your hair through chemotherapy, it does make your ears very cold. Or I'd see somebody that I know, and they'd kind of look, and I just feel the need to explain why I looked like I do, so that they kind of felt they could still talk to me, because I thought, I'm here, I'm still here. I might look like this, but I am, Julie is still here. And it would be lovely if you could talk as we used to, without having this barrier. So I did find that I would make a joke of it and say, oh, look, or I saw one of the dads from the school, and I say, oh, you've got more hair than me. That kind of thing, to try and cut through that embarrassment, to make them, I suppose, feel more comfortable talking to me, because I still wanted to interact as I'd always done with...
And Julie, that's such an art, what you're talking about, that art of communication. It's very interesting, because just when you were doing an impression of yourself to me, your whole persona changed, and your being came kind of quite confidently. I feel that I could imagine you in that situation, putting another at ease, which then will put you at ease. And It is an art, isn't it? I've got you know, teenagers, and I say to them, you know, this is called the art of conversation. We need to learn to do this. You know, we need to go back and forth. And I often think about the younger generation and how, you know, our generation didn't have so many gadgets. We were, whether we were aware of it or not, we were watching people's eyebrows, we were watching people's emotions, we were watching how they deal with multiple situations. And now I think, you know, young people go to the self-serve checkout, and you never have to deal with the slightly awkward person at the checkout and the queues behind you, because there's not the interaction. So I think what you named there is so beautifully put, that the art of actually making another feel comfortable, which helps us to feel comfortable, because it is uncomfortable, isn't it?
It is.
It is.
It is uncomfortable because, well, I don't know why, really. It just is. And I just found that using humour was the only way I could cut through that. Oh, you poor thing.
Yeah.
I thought, oh no, I don't want the poor thing.
Yeah, but you do want a conversation. You know, you do
Yes,
want to smile at someone, and, you know, whatever it is, chat about the weather, the shopping, the, you know, all
yeah,
those small interactions that actually makes us feel human, doesn't it? It takes us away from the massive parts in our lives and just brings us into the moment. And they're so important. The smile with someone, the chat at the post office, lots of people talk about how they feel like every interaction had been taken by the hair loss.
yes, exactly. And you know, you are still the same person. You know, things have happened to you and you've been brave. You know, I kept telling myself, actually, I'm being brave. I am. We watched Disney Brave actually during that time. And I thought to myself, yes, I am brave. I am being courageous. And I have never really given myself credit for those skills. But during that time, I thought, no, I am brave and I will go out. And in fact, I remember walking up to the village shop, and my GP, who I didn't really recognize because she wasn't in work outfit, you know, stopped the car and got out and said, whoa, you know, you've got a lovely shaped head. You know, she knew what I was going through, obviously. And she had got a lovely shaped head. And I thought, well, that's a nice way to greet somebody. You know, it was very positive, and I thought, oh, maybe I have. You know, it was just that.
It was skill, wasn't it? Like you said, Julie, the art
Yeah,
of conversation. She knew your situation,
yeah,
and,
we
you
didn't
know,
have to go through, oh, how I was feeling today. She just looked at the problem and said something that she obviously felt.
yeah.
Whether she's right or not is another matter. But, you know, it was very nice to have that very straightforward, yeah, you've got a nice head shape. And I thought, oh, well, that must be a good thing then. And
Yeah,
I
you look
felt
like you've got a petite head.
yeah,
You've got a very
I
snug
felt
head. Yeah,
quite buoyed up by that,
yeah,
because it was very straightforward. And I think, you know, straightforward, honest transactions are what you
yeah,
value when you've have had a very traumatic experience. You know, all the fluff and the side that you know, we all kind of experience as part of our everyday. I just couldn't be doing with it. I just, you know, just needed people to be straightforward, you know. And if they said, oh, you look awful, well, that's sort of, in a way, that's better than kind of pretending and then,
fudging it.
yeah, and then saying it to their partner as they walk away. You know, I'd rather somebody be honest.
Yeah. Well, I'm glad that you had some positive interactions with people wherever it was. That sounds really good. So to the future, perhaps you'll send us some pictures in 6 months' time so we can see how your hair is, and I can put them in a blog, and then people listening or watching this could actually see, if you feel like sharing those, what your hair is like. And did you ever colour your hair?
I've never coloured it, and I always said I always fancied colouring it purple, but I've never been brave enough.
I can see you like a bit of purple.
I do, and in fact, I was out somewhere and somebody said to me, oh, I've always wanted to cut my hair short like you. And I said, oh, oh, you have chemotherapy. I says, that's a good starting place. And
It's
they went,
free with the chemo.
and we had rather a jolly conversation. It was, somebody, you know, just a random person. And I thought, yeah, sometimes things change for a reason, don't they? And I would never be my life choice to cut it. I'd never feel brave enough to do that. But it's happened, and here I am, and lo and behold, I'm still living and breathing, and you know, hopefully a useful member of society, even though I have got short hair.
And your hair now, I can, because I don't know you with long hair. And
No.
so, you know, your GP's evaluation was right. You know, you do have a nice snug head. For me, you suit that kind of short elfin type of cut, you know, that look. You know, if you wanted to try purple, you can get, they're a bit of an investment. They're probably about £12 or so, but you can get really good temporary sprays. And you can,
Right.
yeah, you can, we do it a lot when we go into the young people's unit, the teenage units, and they've got new hair growth, we spray people's hair. I mean, there's a bit of an art to it, but you can, something might be to do with your girls, and you have to, my big tip is to hold tissue paper all around your hairline, because
Yes.
it goes everywhere. You get purple nose, it'll go up those nose hairs, brows. So if you spend a bit of time doing it, and then you can really get an idea of how your hair would look purple.
Oh, right, as a kind of a,
it can be a really nice way to try it. And there's lots of colors now, bright colors, which some of which are semi-permanents, which you can also try to maybe give it a go. I can see you like your lilacs and purples, so
I do. But isn't it strange how you go from thinking, oh, you know, I've got very short hair, to thinking, do you know, I'm gonna turn it a wacky color,
yeah,
and thus stick out. Whereas formerly you were kind of blending in. You know, it's funny, isn't it, how life takes you. You know, and when I was in hospital, I thought to myself, I'm going to say yes to opportunities more often. You know, sometimes you think, oh, I think I'll do that. Oh, no, I won't. Whereas now I think, do you know, I think I will. And I try and say yes more. You know, the whole experience, it's quite profound, I think.
Oh, Julie, that is just a lovely place for us to leave this lovely chat and conversation, in saying yes more and taking more opportunities. I've got one last question for you. Is there a tune or a song that, you know, when you're feeling down, kind of lifts you up? If you're getting ready to go out somewhere, is there anything that springs to mind that is kind of, or a type of music that lifts you up?
Not particularly, but I suppose I really like choral music, so I suppose a little bit of Zadok the Priest or something, I don't know.
Yeah.
But a little bit kind of rousing choral music is probably something that I would enjoy.
It kind of lift you up.
Yeah.
Yeah. Oh, Julie, thanks ever so much for chatting today. Lots of really nice insights and sharing, and lots of tips actually that I think other people are going to take from this. I really thank you for your time.
No worries.